In the 1970s and early 80s, Ford D-Series lorries were everywhere in Britain. They worked hard, lasted long, and earned the trust of drivers every day. Over time, they faded from the spotlight. But today, something interesting is happening. These old workhorses are coming back, being restored, driven, and loved again like never before. Starting with number 10, we have Ford D300. The Ford D300 was the lightest model in the D-Series range and was designed for gross vehicle weights between 5.2 and 7 tons. The D300 was powered by the Ford 590e diesel engine, a 3.97 litre four-cylinder unit producing 82.5 brake horsepower. The chassis featured a tilt cab that allowed single-person access to the engine bay, and the D300 was available in wheelbases ranging from 8 feet to 14 feet, depending on body requirements. The model was widely used for local delivery work by bakeries, dairies, and small hauliers throughout the 1970s. Municipal operators, including local councils, specified the D300 for street cleansing, parks, maintenance, and light refuse collection. At number 9, we have Ford D400. The Ford D400 was positioned above the D300 and was designed for gross vehicle weights up to 9 tons. The D400 featured the same 3.97 litre four-cylinder diesel engine as the D300, but with revised gear ratios to accommodate heavier payloads. The chassis was available with wheelbases from 10 feet to 16 feet. British Road Services operated substantial D400 fleets during the 1970s for inter-depot transfer work and local delivery routes. The D400 was popular with council fleets for highways maintenance, street lighting, and utility operations. The model featured semi-elliptic leaf springs, front and rear. Production of the D400 continued until 1981, when the model was replaced by the Ford Cargo 0507 and 0607 chassis. At number 8, we have Ford D500. The Ford D500 was a medium-weight, rigid chassis designed for gross vehicle weights between 10 and 12 tons. The D500 was powered by the Ford 2713E engine, a 5.4 2-litre six-cylinder diesel unit producing 98 brake horsepower. The model was available in wheelbases from 11 feet to 17 feet. The rear axle was rated at 8 tons, and the chassis could be specified with single or twin rear wheels depending on payload requirements. At number 7, we have Ford D600. The Ford D600 entered the D-Series range as a heavier, rigid chassis designed for gross vehicle weights up to 13 tons. The D600 was powered by the 2713E engine, producing 98 brake horsepower. Municipal operators including Birmingham Corporation, Manchester Corporation, and Glasgow Corporation specified the D600 for refuse collection with Shelvoke and Drury bodies. The model competed directly with the Bedford KM and the Dodge K-Series in the municipal and construction segments. At number 6, we have Ford D700. The Ford D700 was an upper-range rigid chassis designed for gross vehicle weights up to 14 tons. The D700 was powered by the 2714E engine, producing 108 brake horsepower. The 360T produced 127 brake horsepower at 2,800 revolutions per minute and 288 pounds-feet of torque at 1,600 revolutions per minute. The D700 was commonly seen in municipal service and industrial applications through the late 1970s. The chassis was available in wheelbases from 13 feet to 18 feet. The model featured a Ford 16C single-speed spiral bevel rear, axle rated at 10 tons. The D700 remained in production until 1981, when it was superseded by the Ford Cargo 0811 chassis. At number 5, we have Ford D800. The Ford D800 was one of the heaviest D-Series rigids and was designed for gross vehicle weights up to 16 tons. The The D800 was powered by the 271-5E engine with the turbocharged 360T available as standard equipment on models built after 1969. The chassis featured a strengthened frame with deeper section rails. Recovery operators, including AA, RAC, specified the D800 for heavy recovery work fitted with Holmes or Boniface equipment. The chassis featured a rear axle rated at 11 tons, and the D800 was occasionally fitted with specialist suspension setups. The model competed with the Bedford KM and the Dodge K800 in the heavy rigid segment, and production continued until 1981. At number 4, we have Ford D1000. The Ford D1000 entered production in April 1967 as the flagship heavy D-series model, designed for operation up to 28 tons gross. The D1000 was powered by Cummins Pfeffer 8 diesel engines of 7.7 litres displacement, and at the time of launch, the D1000 was the largest truck ever produced by Ford of Britain. The chassis was available as a rigid with wheelbases from 16 feet to 22 feet. The D1000 featured full air braking systems as standard equipment, and the model was fitted with a fuller 9-speed gearbox for articulated operations. Major fleet operators, including British Road Services, Whitbread and Bass Charrington, specified the D1000 for trunk haulage work. The rigid D1000 was used extensively for tipper operations in quarrying and construction, with operators including Tarmac, RMC and ARC running substantial fleets during the 1970s. Production of the D1000 continued until 1981. At number 3, we have Ford D0810. The Ford D0810 became one of the most familiar mid-range models in the D-series during the second half of the 1970s. It used Ford's later numerical coding system, which helped operators quickly understand where the vehicle sat in the overall weight range. Designed for gross vehicle weights between 12 and 14 tons, power came from Ford's well-proven diesel engines. Buyers could specify either the 2713E or the 2714E engine, producing outputs between 98 and 108 brake horsepower depending on configuration. These engines were not designed for outright performance, but they earned a reputation for durability and predictable operation. For many operators, the ability to cover long days without mechanical drama mattered more than speed. The D0810 chassis was widely documented in UK fleet records and appeared across a broad range of industries. Braking systems reflected the transitional nature of the period. Some D0810 models retained hydraulic braking systems. Gear selection was handled through a 5-speed synchromesh gearbox. Regional distribution fleets relied heavily on the D0810 for depot-to-depot movements and deliveries to customer sites. Bodybuilders such as York, Bonelac and Marshall supplied a wide range of factory and aftermarket bodies, further increasing the model's versatility. In the marketplace, the D0810 competed directly with the Bedford TK 1020 and medium weight offerings from the Dodge K series. Fuel consumption typically averaged between 11 and 13 miles per gallon, depending on payload, route profile and driving style. While not exceptional, these figures were competitive for the class and helped make the D0810 an economical choice for operators running large fleets. By the late 1970s, the D0810 had earned a reputation as a dependable all-rounder. It was not the most advanced truck on the road, but it did exactly what operators needed, day after day. At number 2 we have Ford D0910. Sitting above the D0810, the Ford D0910 was designed for heavier duties and higher payloads. It became especially popular in quarrying, construction and heavy distribution work during the late 1970s. Engine options included the Ford 2714E and the larger 2715E diesel units. For operators needing extra performance, the turbocharged 360T engine was available as an optional fitment, producing 127 brake horsepower. This gave the D0910 improved pulling power on gradients and better performance when working at maximum weight. The chassis featured a rear axle rated at 10 tonnes and was available in wheelbases ranging from 14 feet to 19 feet. Quarry operators frequently specified bodies with capacities between 10 and 14 cubic yards, making the D0910 a regular sight at aggregate sites and construction projects. The D0910 featured strengthened chassis rails and revised spring rates. These changes helped manage concentrated loads and reduced stress on the frame during repeated tipping cycles. Construction contractors also used the D0910 for mixer trucks and site dumpers, where reliability was essential in harsh working conditions. Production of the D0910 continued until the end of the D series era, with the model eventually being replaced by the Ford Cargo 0911 chassis in 1981. Even after replacement, many D0910S continued working on sites across Britain for years afterward, reflecting their robust construction. Finally, at number 1, we have Ford D1000 tractor unit. The Ford D1000 tractor unit represented the most powerful and capable version of the D series. Designed for articulated operation, it was used extensively for regional and trunk haulage during the final years of the 1970s. At launch, it stood as the largest truck ever produced by Ford of Britain. Power came from the Cummins 5.8 diesel engine with a displacement of 7.7 litres. Depending on specification, output ranged between 180 and 220 brake horsepower. This allowed the D1000 tractor to operate at gross train weights of up to 32 tonnes, which was the UK legal maximum at the time. The tractor unit featured a wheelbase of 9 feet 6 inches, making it suitable for standard 40-foot semi-trailers. A Fuller RTO 9109 speed gearbox was typically fitted, providing drivers with a wide spread of ratios for both motorway cruising and hill work. In service, the D1000 competed directly with the ERFB series, Foden S80 and Seddon Atkinson 200 series in the maximum weight category. Fuel consumption typically ranged between 8 and 10 miles per gallon at gross train weight. Production of the D1000 tractor unit continued until March 1981, when Ford introduced the cargo range powered by the new Dover series of diesel engines. Today, surviving D1000 tractors are prized by enthusiasts as symbols of Ford's final push into heavy haulage before the cargo era reshaped the company's commercial vehicle strategy. The Ford Cargo entered production in 1981 with a £125 million development investment.